They were singing, "Hey, hey, baby, I want to know, will you be my girl?" It's from Dirty Dancing. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Wrestling Archives podcast. I'm your co-host, Tim Hackman.
And I'm your co-host, Rich Sigwald.
Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. We're excited to be with you here. We hope you caught our recent episodes. We also, we're looking forward to talking about our event today. We're going way back to 1992. I don't know. Hopefully you guys remember way back that far. I was just a wee lad of, 92. I would have been... math, 15, 16, 15, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I was 12, and in the basement of my friend's shitty townhouse watching this on stolen cable, or I'm pretty sure it was stolen cable, with his uncle in the basement, on about a 20-inch or so TV. But, damn it, what a memory.
That's the way to watch it, man. I wish there was a way to recreate that now, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe off of like Pirate Bay or something. I don't know. Yeah. Don't pirate your stuff. Yeah, we're going to talk about SummerSlam 92. But before we get into that, I was just curious, did you watch any of Backlash that happened this weekend on the Peacocks?
I've seen a good portion of it at this point. I couldn't sleep this morning, so I got up early and was watching the replay. And that opening match, that's the one that's really sticking out in my head right now. I haven't finished the event, but that match, the premise of it becoming a street fight made no sense. It still was a action-packed fight with Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga versus Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. So I think they got big plans for Solo Sikoa at this point, and I also think we're going to see a babyface turn out of Paul Heyman out of all this too.
Yeah. That it's been a good show, actually. We just finished it before I logged on here, so I won't give anything away. I thought the main event between Cody and AJ was phenomenal. I actually thought the women's triple threat match was really good. Actually, I mean, all of it was pretty solid. That crowd was the most insane crowd I've seen or heard in forever. Like,
those European crowds always bring it, and that's something that we're probably going to talk about in this episode, just because Wembley Stadium in 1992 SummerSlam is fire. And even if Vince McMahon may be lying about the number of people that's there, it's still a huge crowd and loud. Lyon, France is kind of a fascinating choice. I'm not exactly sure how that came about. Maybe WWE just didn't want to go on the European tour with a massive outside stadium rigging or something, and so they're just, we're going to do it in arenas. But how fired up that crowd was, I can imagine that they would have been able to fill a local soccer stadium in Lyon or something like that, and not just put it in some arena that looked like it could only seat about maybe 5,000 people. It was a small venue.
Yeah, it was small. I don't know what the actual... they said like somewhere around 11 or 12 on the announcing at various points. They gave quite a little bit different numbers. I thought was really funny is the French announcer came out and did the announcement about the attendance and stuff. Apparently the SmackDown prior to Backlash set the... it set some attendance record or whatever, but so we're watching it and we watch it with the subtitles on because we're old and we can't hear anything, and it just said speaking French, like it didn't even translate the announcers.
They're not even trying.
They're not even trying. Couldn't somebody help? Yeah, Anyway, Michael Cole gave us the short version, though.
So then you can just think that like the French commentary is just going "sacre bleu" the entire time.
Zut alors! Yeah, it's a good time. I had to look up what they were chanting. There's a couple different chants they do throughout. When you get to the main event, you'll love it. There's a song that they start singing for AJ, which apparently they sing for soccer players as kind of a way to make fun of them. And the lyrics are something along the lines of, he's so phenomenal, he's a phenomenal man, or something like that. And so they keep singing this song over and over and over again, and like it's fucking incredible. They sing it so loud and bounce so hard that the camera is like shaking up and down.
Nice.
And like even to the point where the announcers have to comment on, you can't hear the announcers over the crowd. It's insane. Like, I mean, whatever is going on with WWE these days, I hope it lasts for them for a little bit. But yeah, I mean, some of it is
they
Europe.
were singing "Be My Girl" to Bailey, right?
Yeah, they were singing, "Hey Bailey, I wanna know, will you be my girl?" That's from Dirty Dancing. Bailey even sort of stopped it a couple times and kind of like just acknowledged the crowd reaction.
Very much
She's like, "You guys." Anyway, that's
probably trying not to laugh because it's freaking hilarious and amazing, and Bailey is gorgeous and worth having that song sung to. But man,
so way to go, French people. Keep it up. Proud of you. All right, but so we're not talking about the French today. We're talking about SummerSlam 1992 from August 29th, 1992. It was actually aired in the U.S. for the first time August 31st, 1992. A couple days delay. I don't know if they had to put the tape on a ship or what. Coming to us from Wembley Stadium in London, England. Announced attendance is 78,927. We can talk a little bit about that. And the tagline on this bad boy is, "The SummerSlam you thought you'd never see." Which, I mean, I don't know about that.
It's the first pay-per-view held not in North America. And they have a huge sellout of Wembley Stadium. Wembley claims that it was 78,927. WWE, Vince McMahon, screaming his head off for 3 hours, just constantly keeps saying that it's 80,355 or 355. I mean, who cares at this point? It's a massive crowd, and they are amped. They're amped for everything. You just get a lot of like very stereotypical British stuff just pounding at you right away. We get greeted by trumpet voluntary by Henry Purcell. We got British fans that you can barely understand out on the street talking about how they love either Bret Hart, or they like Davey Boy Smith, or they like Shawn Michaels or Undertaker. There's like weird goth British kids dressed like Undertaker. It's quite the experience that you're getting filled with. And my initial thought was like the camera comes in and there's a bunch of dudes playing herald trumpets, those herald trumpets with the really long bells with the flags hanging from them. And they also had some bass trumpet, herald trumpets that I was shocked to see pulled out. And as a trumpet player, I can tell you those things fucking suck to play.
Those things must be hard as hell to hold up for a show, right? Because it's like they're like 3 times as long as a regular trumpet, and you got the extra weight of the flag.
Well, it's not necessarily the weight of the flag. It's the lightest breeze blowing against the flag. You're holding a sail to your face that you're trying to... That, like, the instrument is very dependent upon pressure upon your lips to play, to get that vibration happening, to make the sound. And if there's a sail attached to the end of it, pulling it away from your face, you are blowing up your biceps and triceps trying to keep that bitch on your face. They are no fun. I sold the one I had immediately after getting it because I was like, this is not worth having.
You're like, the Renaissance Fair gigs aren't worth it.
No, fuck that. Fuck that. So...
There's a little British kid who says, the British Bulldog's going to win whether he wants to or not.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. You tell him, kid.
That kid knows the fix is in. He knows wrestling's not real.
Lots of warrior face paint among the little British moppets there, too. Big warrior crowd.
this is the time of the Ultimate Warrior. Hogan did not come on this European tour, I believe, at this point, just because I think he was filming something. And then we meet Bobby Heenan, who is doing commentary with Vince McMahon, and he introduces himself as Sir Bobby, King of England. I'm sure that's very real and true.
So Suburban Commando came out in 91, so that would have been out of the thing. But Thunder in Paradise and Mr. Nanny both came out in 93, so those might have been being filmed around this time.
Maybe it's Mr. Nanny, because I think Thunder in Paradise he was in WCW by then, I thought.
Okay.
Maybe not. I don't know.
So this is weird. The Google results show Thunder in Paradise coming out in 94 and Thunder in Paradise 2 coming out in 93, which can't possibly be true.
No.
But anyway.
The internet is lying to us.
The internet is lying to me, yeah. Here's a funny search result. Top 20 movies featuring Hulk Hogan. I feel like that's stretching it quite a bit. Although the first one is Gremlins 2 and then Rocky 3. Those, yeah. Anyway, Muppets from Space, Gnome and Juliet, Thunder in Paradise, Suburban Commando, No Holds Barred, Spy Hard, Thunder in Paradise 3 is at number 9, and then Thunder in Paradise 2 comes in at number 10. Anyway, sorry, off the topic.
Yeah, let's see. Batman Returns comes out that summer too.
Yeah, so maybe he was just staying home to prepare for that.
Man, this is a banger. This is a banger list of movies right here at the top 5 of there. Batman Returns, Lethal Weapon 3, Sister Act, A League of Their Own, Patriot Games. Top 5 movies of that summer.
I love Patriot Games. I like doing the Irish accent from Sean Bean. I got business, Sean, and a night in Maryland. That's my favorite.
And Encino Man came out that summer. Important movie. Bobby
Heenan, superstar. Happy to see him here. Vince does a whole lot of screaming throughout this show. He begins the show by screaming about IcoPro, and then we go into screaming about Britain and attendance and whatever else.
The thing is it's not his gravel voice. It's still his like 80s cartoonish commentary where he's talking like this. It's the Ultimate Warrior.
His bombastic voice.
Oh my! Like he shuts off his nasal passages completely and just starts talking as loud as possible. So it's like, and now coming to the ring, it's Money Inc. Like how do you talk like that for 3 hours?
Well, that's why his voice is blown out completely.
The only thing that he gives the gravel to is SummerSlam. Welcome to SummerSlam. That's what you get. And it's, he is not a good commentator.
No, he's not good at all. Any other background on this one before we get into the show itself?
Yeah, so the only other background that I really have on this is that it was fairly late in determining whether SummerSlam was going to be in either Washington, D.C. or London, England. And if it was going to be in Washington, D.C., the planned match for Bret was going to be Bret versus Shawn Michaels in a ladder match, which ends up happening at a different time. But when they said that SummerSlam was going to be in Wembley, that's when Bret supposedly came up with the idea that he should drop the belt to Davey Boy Smith, the Intercontinental belt to Davey Boy Smith at Wembley to put him over more.
Interesting.
Yeah, but Davey Boy Smith was on a 6-month suspension that was ending at SummerSlam for steroid abuse. And in those 6 months, he took a dark turn, and we can talk a little bit more about it, but the basics is that he gets dropped off at the airport to go to SummerSlam by Jim the Anvil Neidhart after doing crack all night with him.
That's rough.
Yeah.
It's such a shame. He's such a talent, and you see him even here in his not great state, and you can just see what a specimen he was, and we've talked about him before. Just how strong and how fast and how, everything. He's
everything that Vince McMahon would normally want.
Yeah, 100%.
And he was definitely over with the crowd. Very, not just in England though. He was popular in the States as well.
I loved that man as a kid. He was like, he was one of my faves. He just really couldn't keep his shit together, you know. So anyway, yeah, and it's a tough road to hoe. I'm not diminishing that at all. And substance abuse is a rough thing. But it is kind of a shame when you see somebody like that who had basically everything. Scott Hall's another one we've talked about quite a bit, right? Like, yeah,
it's a recurring theme in professional wrestling, and it's sad. It seems like possibly these days they've offered more support, and it's helping, I guess. I think the travel isn't quite as brutal. The whole you actually sign like guaranteed contracts and stuff like that, which I guess they could thank the WCW and Scott Hall and Kevin Nash for even coming up with that concept for the most part. So I think that kind of stuff is giving them a better support net to keep that stuff from happening.
I also feel like the whole culture of like working hurt has shifted a bit, right? Like if if your back is like legitimately fucked up, like you find a way to. You may not want to take yourself out of the equation, but there are options, at least these days, for doing it in a way that doesn't derail you entirely. So anyway, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but
yeah, I mean that was a territory thing where you had to work to make the money.
Yeah, you
weren't going to get your $200 if you didn't get in the ring that night, and so you took enough pills to where you didn't feel it, and. Honestly, that kind of stuff also just started fading a bit with the WWF by this period of time too. That like Mr. Perfect, he's in this weird managerial kind of advisor role to Ric Flair and stuff because he is injured. And Mr. Perfect also occasionally does some commentary during this time period as well because he's injured. And so they just find other work for them to do at this point now instead of being like, well, you're not in the ring, you're not getting paid. Like that Carney concept, that vaudeville theater thing, where you have to, as long as you're seen on stage, you get money. That kind of concept is gone. So they are finding other ways to make that work for people.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the card because this is a great event. I'm really glad we watched it. I've seen this one before. I've seen it probably multiple times, but every time I watch it, I'm kind of I'm glad.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of dark matches that we don't get to see. Jim Duggan and the Bushwhackers defeat the Mountie and the Nasty Boys with Jimmy Hart. Papa Shango defeats Tito Santana, our buddy Tito Santana. And then we get into the main card. And the very first match we get is Money Inc., which is Ted DiBiase and IRS, which of course is our buddy, whose name is escaping me. Mike
Rotunda.
Thank you.
There you go, bud.
Oh, my God.
It's okay.
It's been a long day. We've been looking at houses. We're looking at real estate all day, and my brain is fried. I'm like, wait, which one had the bathtub? Is that the bathtub? I don't remember. Anyway, Mike Rotunda, IRS, with Jimmy Hart versus the Legion of Doom, of course, Hawk and Animal, with Paul Ellering and Rocco the ventriloquist dummy. So
yeah, I don't quite understand what's happening there.
Me neither.
I didn't want to take the time to try and watch several episodes of whatever Primetime or something beforehand and be like, why do the Road Warriors have a puppet? It's like, well, that's kind of softening them up a bit, don't you think? And, and it just goes along the lines that like the WWF version of the Legion of Doom / Road Warriors is so much tamer than what they were in like the either the AWA or Crockett Promotions or anywhere else that they worked. It's so much tamer. They like, I've watched them on some of these like old Saturday night episodes of World Championship Wrestling, and they literally like run into the ring and just beat the living piss out of these jobbers, and like they're just like, and like you hear David Crockett and Tony Schiavone trying to be like, well, these are some pretty strong guys that the Road Warriors are going to have to fight tonight. It doesn't matter. They're just turn them in a grease spot in the ring. They do one tag, like Hawk or Animal just beats the living shit out of both of the guys. They even like do the thing where they drag the one guy to the corner to make him tag in the partner so they can beat him up.
You got to beat up both of them. Yeah.
And then then Animal tags in Hawk. They land the Doomsday Device and they get the hell out of there. But like, this is just so tame. They come to the ring, though they do come to the ring on Harley Davidsons, which is pretty badass. But they're still tame. They're not working nearly as stiff. They're not working as fast. They're not nearly as aggressive of a tag team as they are. They don't come off as unhinged, I should say.
No, this is a much more balanced match. This is a much more typical WWF match for this time. You can tell from the start it's going to be a Dirty Tricks on the Money Inc. side versus a Brute Force on the Legion of Doom side. They've got all the strength, all the power, but Ted and Mike are going to do their best to get through it with a combination of backhanded techniques and so there's some good stuff in this match. I really had a good time watching this one.
Yeah, it's an entertaining match, yeah. And Animal gorilla presses Mike Rotunda, just locks the elbows, holding him up above his head. Like, Jesus Christ.
Those guys are unbelievably strong.
I did that to my son today, who's only 45 pounds. I did it once, and I was like, oh my God, I'm done. And he's like, again. I'm like, no. Yeah. So, having the strength to pick Rotunda up, who's probably running 250, 260 at this point.
He's pretty solid at this point.
He is solidly built. He is filling out that dress shirt and suspenders.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked a little bit about it on the last show about Rotunda getting in the Hall of Fame as part of the U.S. Express, right? Which is which is a little bit of a shame because he's such a talent on his own. But he really, people really, a lot of people anyway, I will say, remember him from this era, from the IRS era, which is not at all typical of his usual stuff,
No, this is he's been WWFized almost at this point. He doesn't do a lot of mat wrestling. You can tell that when he does, it is incredibly precise and crisp and clean, and it looks real. It looks great. And so suddenly, he just suddenly turns it on, and then he's like, "Oh, right, I'm in the WWF. I just need to run and clothesline and punch."
Yeah, I'm not supposed to have that many moves. 3 moves max.
Right. So Bobby Heenan drops his great line during this match. It says, "If you're close enough, you don't need the tag." And all I can think of was that Bobby Heenan supports the AEW rules of tag team matches. Yeah.
The backslap tag.
Yeah. Jimmy Hart screams through the megaphone at one point, "Rocco can't help you now, big boy."
It's hilarious.
I don't know how the puppet's going to help, but okay.
I don't know. I was just looking up Jeff Dunham to see if he was alive during this. And he was around. He would have been 31 during this show, so maybe he could have been there to help out Rocco. I don't know. There's a lot of double teaming of DiBiase and IRS on Hawk at one point, and keeping him in the corner. And Heenan says, "This is classic, good scientific wrestling."
Yeah,
I love it. Lots of long sleeper holds in this one. Both IRS and Ted had used the sleeper hold as a move. Ted at one point is sort of using his foot to kind of add pressure to the sleeper hold, so where the ref can't see it. Again, sort of just classic Dirty Tricks kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The bad guys throughout this thing are just continually distracting the ref, then double teaming. The ref's yelling at Animal, and every time he comes in to help, of course, he's yelling at the wrong guys. That gets the crowd nice and hype. There's a huge hot tag who comes just with the flying shoulder blocks for everybody. Everybody in the neighborhood gets a flying shoulder block. There's a huge power slam on Ted for the Legion of Doom win in this one.
Yeah, we have a missed Doomsday Device too, and that was kind of shocking to see that move to be missed. And I believe this is the event too that after this one, Hulk disappears, and they have no idea where he disappears to, but he goes on a bender.
Oh no.
And so the Legion of Doom / Road Warriors disappear after this event, basically, because they can't. He takes off. So
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't know about that part. How long was he out of action? Do you know?
I don't know. I know he turns up in Japan, and it leads actually like. Hulk goes off on a bender, partially triggered actually by Rocco the Dummy, it seems like. So like they thought that the gimmick was really stupid, but Hulk thought it was stupid to the point where he quit and left Animal on his own.
Wow.
And then Animal then takes a bad back injury shortly after that. And everybody thought that was basically the end of their team. And so they finally show back up years later, but this is basically their last appearance in WWF for a very long time.
Fascinating. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty dumb gimmick. I get it.
Yeah. Why does our manager Paul Ellering, who's a badass in his own bit, need a puppet?
I thought you were going to say that maybe the puppet told him to take a powder.
Maybe.
Get out of there. He's like, you ought to go to Bangkok, kid.
Yeah, go to Japan.
You know how those puppets are. All right, so we got a Ric Flair and Mean Gene backstage. Gene's trying to get an answer about which corner Ric Flair will be in, and he's very evasive. This has to do with the Macho Man versus Warrior. Mean Gene gets so exasperated he quotes Winston Churchill, which that's how you know you've pissed Mean Gene off. He's quoting Winston Churchill in England.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that.
This is like the most boring promo I've ever seen Ric Flair give. It is so tame. It is so WWF promo. He's not like losing his mind, going crazy, talking about the ladies or anything like that. He's just like, well, I'm the champ and I should be the champ and I'm here in England. And, you know, Mr. Perfect's going to be in the corner of somebody. Who's it going to be? Bye.
Yeah. That's kind of a running little mini storyline throughout this, right? Like Macho Man and Warrior, who's Mr. Perfect and who's Ric Flair going to be in the corner for. We'll get back to this a couple of other times throughout here. We also get a Virgil quick interview with Sean Mooney. Virgil's a nutcase. Like he was a nutcase before he was a nutcase. He said, "You gotta want it, man," and he also says that he is too legit to quit.
Yeah, quoting the MC Hammer song.
Yeah, I think he owes MC Hammer some money.
Probably. And it's also very clear that this is the fake locker room promo set that WWF uses at this time.
Cardboard setup or whatever.
Yeah.
It also occurred to me that I don't know if I've ever heard a Virgil promo before.
This is I think a pretty rare one.
Yeah. It's not even talking about Olive Garden's meat sauce and breadsticks.
No, it's sad.
Yeah. Such a shame. You gotta want it, man.
Gotta want it. Virgil has fought on the mean streets of the world, by the way, is what
of
he
the world, said. No less.
Of the world, yeah.
Not even like Detroit, just the world. Well, that leads us into our next match, which is Virgil versus Nails with a Z. Nails is, of course, the convict gimmick wrestler. Good match for the Big Boss Man, who is the cop gimmick wrestler, but here he's against Virgil. Nails starts in the ring, which usually is not a good sign for him, but Virgil gets a really nice reaction from the crowd.
Yeah. They're like, oh, it's Virgil. And Nails has a short-lived career in WWF, even though they're still building him up big here. This is basically a squash match. Nails, Mr. No Theme Music Nails, comes out in a prison jumpsuit, and he just keeps choking Virgil to like 4 counts, and then he just chokes him to win, and it's like a squash. Like it's over in an instant. Like Virgil didn't have a fucking chance.
No. He takes a nightstick or whatever that thing is to poor Virgil after the fact. I don't know. He didn't stick around too long. He apparently choked Vince in a backstage thing and got the boot.
Yeah,
too
he
long
attacked
after
Vince McMahon in December of 1992 and gets fired, and that's it.
Thanks for coming, Nails.
And then he actually shows up in WCW briefly right after that under the name The Prisoner.
You guys are not even trying at this point.
And WCW gets sued at this point.
Oh my God, that's funny. That's pretty funny.
And he has a match and loses to Sting. Yeah.
He's a really unfortunate looking man. I feel bad for him.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Kevin Patrick Wachholtz.
He looks all right in that picture on Wikipedia, but
he's ripped.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would you cover that up with a jumpsuit? Like, whatever. Anyway, so moving on. Lord Alfred Hayes is at the dressing room. He's investigating this whole Ric Flair question. He's being very British. I don't know what's happening. We also get Mean Gene then with Sherry Martel, who's running down the whole sticky situation with her, with Heartbreak Kid, with Rick Martel. I hope that this means we'll get a whole bunch more Sherry before this whole shindig is over. She's phenomenal as always. Love her. She's my eternal wrestling crush. Some people it's Miss Elizabeth. For me, it's Sensational Sherry.
Sherry's making this feud. Oh my God.
It's a tough call. I don't know. I mean, they're both a couple of studs.
Yeah.
You like the blonde or you like the brunette?
I can't tell which one I'd prefer.
Yeah. Rick Martel is still the model at this point. That's how you know he's extra sexy.
Yeah.
This feels very late for a Rick Martel, like, push story, whatever you want to call it. I think of him as more of a late 80s, early 90s, but I guess we're still technically early 90s.
We're still early 90s here. I mean, he's fresh off this is like his first feud after settling the business with Tito, where they use Rick Martel to push Shawn Michaels. And so Shawn has his fresh new theme song of I'm Just a Boy Toy, written by Jimmy Hart and with Sherry Martel singing it. And it is wonderfully awful with Sherry singing it. Yeah. And Bobby Heenan is whistling along.
I feel like he would have that on his Walkman at this point.
Yeah. And this is all AWA, these folks. Sherry Martel, Rick Martel, and Shawn Michaels all right out of the AWA and into the WWF at this point. Yeah. So it's you can see the magnetism of the WWF calling and pulling people out of their territories and roughing everything up.
Come to the money. To the money. Yeah, so this is the model Rick Martel versus Shawn Michaels with Sherry Martel as his valet. She carries a mirror to the ring with him, which makes me laugh. I was wondering if this was before or after the narcissist Lex Luger's debut. It must have been...
No, this is before.
Yeah, it must have been before. So good old Lex must have copied a little bit there. It's one of these kind of classic battles of who's more conceited.
Yeah.
There's nobody to root for here, right? Like, they're both dickheads.
Yeah, it's a heel versus heel match, which is fun.
Yeah.
And Sherry is such a pro. She really is. So, like, one of the things that she does at the start of the match is unbuckles Shawn's chaps. And so she kneels down in a very provocative way in front of Shawn. But positions herself in just a way so that you can see all her like little hand motions undoing the buckle over his crotch for stuff. So like her head isn't blocking the shot or anything like that. You can see what she's doing to open up his chaps right on the hard cam. And again, it's just knowing your positioning for the hard cam and where the cameras are and how you're being viewed and stuff like that. This really makes a big difference in your professional career. And Sherry definitely knew what she was doing. And this match is all her.
This whole thing is a dramatic tour de force for Sherry. Like I have no idea what's happening in the ring, and it doesn't really matter. Like there's not really any wrestling to speak about. It's just all about who's gonna woo Sherry, right? Is it gonna be the model? Is it gonna be the Heartbreak Kid? Is she gonna go with one? Is she gonna go with the other? And it's back and forth and back and forth.
Now, they have a stipulation to where they've promised not to hit either person in the face.
Because they're both too pretty.
They're both too pretty, and so they've agreed not to hit each other in the face. So, which means almost nothing is happening in this match. But then Shawn finally slaps Rick in the face, and Rick slaps Shawn back, and Sherry faints, seeing both men hit each other in the face.
Oh, man.
And Vince says, I think she's faking. And Bobby Heenan replies, I know when a woman fakes. Believe me. Bobby.
I didn't catch that one. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So Rick Martel runs out of the ring and he starts CPR on Sherry Martel.
He's
dead. Doing chest compressions. Like, I hope he's not like really doing them because that's going to hurt somebody. And then
crack a rib.
And then they brawl on the outside to a double count out, like the world's fastest double count out too. Like that ref is just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, where is that count any other time in wrestling?
Yeah, let's wrap this up. That's what that guy's saying.
And then so they're brawling, and you see Sherry pop up and sees the action, and then flops back out.
Yeah, it's great. So somebody, which one is it? Somebody picks her up.
Shawn picks up Sherry and is carrying her all the way back from the center of Wembley Stadium to the locker room, and Martel comes running and punches Shawn, making him drop Sherry, and then Martel picks Sherry up and starts walking back, and then now Shawn then hits Martel in the back, and Sherry drops again to the floor, and Shawn starts carrying her. And then Martel comes back out with a bucket of water and misses Shawn and hits Sherry right in the face with it. Classic.
I thought we were headed towards the Harlem Globetrotters bucket full of confetti moment right there, personally.
This is... It gets a little too much at that point, but
yeah.
Sherry is just stealing the camera this entire time, even though she's technically passed out.
It was too much. She just fainted dead away. It's the worst.
Yeah.
So anyway, that just happened. That was a thing that happened on this show. Sherry Martel, MVP.
Yeah.
I've said it before. We'll say it again. We get the Nasty Boys backstage with Jimmy Hart and Sean Mooney again. I just wrote down, good God, those guys are ugly. Can you imagine the Nasty Boys making it in any other entertainment realm?
They have to be professional wrestlers.
Oh my God, their faces are
I don't
the
even
worst.
think they could even do a normal job. They have to be professional wrestlers looking at those two guys.
Even the Jiffy Lube's like, yeah, no, that's a pass for us.
Yeah, get your armpits out of here.
I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, they do make a couple sick burns on Sherry Martel about her too much eye makeup and stuff like that, which is pretty funny. And then they end it with, in the name of the Queen of England, I don't know why we don't have a title shot. So
I don't think you're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
The next thing on the card is the Beverly Brothers, which is Bo and Blake, with the Genius in their corner versus the Natural Disasters, Typhoon and Earthquake. This is a tag team championship match. The Beverly Brothers are the heels here. The Natural Disasters are the faces here, so we get to see our buddy John Tenta Earthquake as a face, as well as, of course, Fred Ottman, the Typhoon / Tugboat, just like the world's happiest guy, also as a face, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
We get a lovely poem by the Genius to start things off.
Yes, I have it here.
Do you? All right, hit me.
From the home of the Olympics of 1948 and the World Cup of 66, I know the date, and now it is SummerSlam from Wembley. The Genius holds the key, and now the next tag team champions, the Brothers Beverly.
That's the whole thing?
That's it. It was a very short one. I think
terrible.
He literally wrote it while walking to the ring or something.
That's terrible.
What's a word that rhymes with Beverly? Key. Got it.
And go.
Yeah.
I'll just say that Fred Ottman, a.k.a. Typhoon, always just seems thrilled to be wherever he is. He seems like the world's most genial guy.
Even when he was a heel, he seemed happy.
I would love to just go to a ball game with Fred Ottman and just buy him 14 beers, and I'll drink one, and then we'll just sit there and have a good time and watch the game in the sunshine. I'm sure he's got great stories.
Yeah, I mean, you got to get the deets on being the Shockmaster and wearing that glittered Stormtrooper helmet and falling through a wall.
Yeah. I also think Earthquake deserves a face run like he's got here. He's just a guy that deserves to be happy, you know?
I mean, it's been said by many people that, like, Tenta hated being a bad guy.
Yeah.
That he loved the kids so much he hated that when the kids were angry at him or booing him or crying because of him. He hated it. But he also understood in the business when you're as big as he is, you got to run a heel sometimes.
Yeah. It makes me kind of sad to think about that. But
yeah.
Heenan says that the natural disasters are going to use their weight to their advantage.
No shit.
Which has to be the most obvious thing that anyone's ever said in wrestling.
Yeah, he also later on says this isn't fair. It's 8 against 1.
That's a pretty good one. I like that. There's a good spot where one of the Beverleys, I don't care, goes for a body slam and Typhoon like just falls on him and almost gets a pin.
That was painful.
Yeah. It's kind of like the spot that Hogan and Andre did in WrestleMania 3, and then, of course, Hogan kicked out. Vince is shouting, "What a maneuver," roughly every 45 seconds through this match.
He doesn't know the names of the wrestling moves. And there's really not many moves happening because it's the natural disasters. They don't have a lot of moves, to be honest with you, besides, like, be big. And, like, it's just, what a maneuver. Though, like, Tenta has an impressive drop kick and stuff, but, you know, they don't really let him use it much. Tenta and Typhoon just land a bunch of big old body sandwiches that just look devastating. And, you know, the inevitable happens and Earthquake lands his namesake move where he bounces off the ropes and you're like, Jesus Christ, those ropes aren't going to hold because he knew how to hit them. Man, that dude, he should have been teaching newbies how to hit the ropes. It's too bad he's not around to do that. He lands where he bounces off the ropes twice and then jumps and lands flat on the dude's sternum. And the stadium just goes wild for them. That stadium, the English people love the natural disasters. They're just so happy about them. So good for them.
Yeah, I don't care about the Beverly Brothers at all, but I'll rep for Earthquake and Typhoon. Those guys are great. Next up, we get Mean Gene and the Bushwhackers, who won't stop moving their arms around. I don't know if they've got some sort of like substance problem or I don't know, some sort of motor disorder.
It's a nervous tick.
I don't know what they're saying. I
just wrote worthless and pointless.
Okay. I did have an important question. Who do you think is uglier, the Nasty Boys or the Bushwhackers?
The Nasty Boys, I think, at least.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
The Bushwhackers are like maybe friendly ugly?
Yeah, they just look ugly because of, like, you know, they're sheep herders from, like, the back hills. But, like, the Nasty Boys intentionally make themselves look ugly.
Yeah, that's a good distinction.
Yeah. We have a weird thing here. We have Lord Alfred Hayes now outside the Ultimate Warrior's dressing room. And he believes Mr. Perfect is in there. And Hayes says he's going to breach his code of ethics to open the door without knocking to find out. And, like, it's very clear that Alfred Hayes is reading a cue card. Because, like, he's pausing at line breaks. It's really bad. And I'm pretty certain that he's not even in London. That this is probably just filmed in a studio in Stamford, Connecticut or something. And he opens up the Ultimate Warrior's door and immediately gets slammed back in his face. And he just turns to the camera looking like a fucking idiot. And now we come back and it is significantly darker out.
Interesting.
It's very obvious that this is on being broadcast taped at this point. So, and you know, it later is admitted, but they try to present this as live, but
sure,
that sun set really fast in London.
I must have missed that entirely. Maybe I went to the bathroom or something.
Maybe.
I don't know. These things happen. So the next thing we see is the Repo Man, or Buddy Barry Darso, versus Crush, formerly of Demolition. You guys might remember that. He was the third Demolition. I don't know what happened. I just wrote down, what did Barry Darso ever do to deserve this?
Right. I was hoping that they would actually mention that these two had been tag team partners.
Yeah.
But they can't break the kayfabe like that.
I guess.
But I did also kind of wish that like Barry had gone back to being Crusher Khrushchev after coming out of Demolition. That would have been fun to have.
That would have been cool. Yeah.
Have him with a Russian run in WWF. It's kind of just like a nonsensical mash, and then Crush with his stupid finisher of squeezing the person's head until the other person gives up and it's over.
Yeah, it's kind of like a squash match. It's only about 5 minutes long.
If that, yeah.
Whole thing's over. Poor Barry.
Yeah.
Next up is the long. This felt really long. The video package and the complete rundown on this whole Mr. Perfect, Macho Man, Ric Flair, Warrior situation, four-way, whatever you want to call it. It's super complicated. The only thing I really wanted to mention is that in the flashbacks, the bits where, you know what I'm going to say, don't you?
Oh, I do.
The bits where Ultimate Warrior is wearing the flesh-colored bodysuit is really unfortunate and disturbing. And
we're lucky that we have high definition now so that we can see that. But I can guarantee you on like an old-fashioned tube television, that resolution, it's just going to look like he's wearing like a purple fig leaf in the front and his logo covering his asshole in the back. Like, that's it. Like, it's
horrifying.
It's god awful. Like, at first I didn't even notice it was a flesh-colored bodysuit that he was wearing. And I was like...
Yeah. Like, is he nude?
What the hell is he wearing to the ring, man?
How's he going to keep a loincloth on for this thing?
Very uncomfortable.
It's bad. It's not good at all. Anyway, there's a bunch of shit that happens. Is any of it worth digging into? I mean,
no.
Yeah, okay.
No.
That's what I thought. So then we'll just get right to I guess you would call this the co-main event, maybe?
It is the co-main event.
Yeah.
It's for the World Championship.
It's Macho Man, Randy Savage, of course, versus the Ultimate Warrior for the WWF Championship. We get the world's longest entrances for these two. Macho Man is just absolutely resplendent. Warrior has this like slim good body suit on for some reason.
And he runs to the ring from the locker room to the center of Wembley Stadium.
Yeah.
I'm just like, Jesus Christ, he's going to be gassed.
It is really...
And he is...
It is really far from the locker room to the ring.
Yeah.
I noticed it when Virgil came jogging out earlier. I'm like, man, he's still running. Like,
yeah,
it's a really long time. I do say I will rep for the Ultimate Warrior's, like those airbrushed coats that he wears.
They're pretty awesome.
Those things are pretty rad. Like if
that one is significantly rad. It's like the Union Jack exploding with like green flames coming out of it. It's pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. If I had one of those, I would wear it every day. So we get a big handshake moment to start. Are they gonna shake the hands? Are they not gonna shake the hands? They do shake the hands eventually. So that part's settled. And then they really start going at it. Like they're just back and forth and back and forth. It's physical. It's sweaty. It's violent. It's brutal. Ultimate Warrior's makeup starts sliding off his face like within the first couple of minutes. That's probably not helped by the whole sprint to the ring.
But there's no denying what's happening, though, that Macho and Warrior are facing off to build the heat, and suddenly you can hear from the crowd, Hogan, 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 Hogan. They want Hulk Hogan to come out during this for some reason.
Yeah, they want him to come settle it, right? They want to come pick a side and tell them who they should root for here.
All I could say really about this match was that Macho Man was clearly trying to make chicken salad out of chicken shit, as Stone Cold would say. That like Ultimate Warrior looks horrible, and Macho Man just exposes him incredibly badly of how much of a poor ring talent Ultimate Warrior was.
Yeah, I mean, putting those two in the same ring it's not a great move, you know, unless you're going to do like a 3-minute just whatever. Like, there's no comparison, right? I mean, Macho Man is selling the back to the point where he tries to suplex the Warrior, but he can't quite do it because his back is shot. But Yeah, the
Warrior's walking around like Terminator, no selling everything.
Yeah, the Warrior's just giving him nothing, man.
And he's so gassed. And like that's the thing though, is that like Ultimate Warrior looks like he's in better shape than Macho Man. But Macho Man can run like a maniac and do all these moves for 30 minutes in a match. No problem. Just constantly going. And Ultimate Warrior, he ran to the ring and he was done. Just totally gassed.
Yeah. Did you ever see that footage of Axl Rose on one of the late Guns N' Roses shows? That's one of the comeback shows, or maybe it was an MTV Movie Awards, where it's this like really long runway to the main stage, and he kind of like runs out to the to the microphone, and then it's such a long way he can't even he's like, "Welcome to the jungle." He can't even sing the song because he's just shot completely. I feel like Patton Oswalt did a bit about that. Anyway,
yeah.
It's same gig. There's this lasts a long time.
Yeah, and Macho Man is doing things. He recognizes that the crowd is more on the side of Warrior. Yeah. So Macho Man starts doing these little soft heel moves, and like definitely glaring out at the audience. Like, look, see what I did? See what I did? And he's getting some boos, and the Warrior's getting more positive heat, and that just sets up for Flair and Perfect to start wandering their way down to the ring.
Yeah.
And Perfect trips Macho Man, and you hear Vince trying to sell us so hard that the Warrior had paid Flair and Perfect, because actually they're wanting to try and turn the Ultimate Warrior heel at this point.
Interesting.
And Jim Hellwig refuses. He says, "No, you can't turn me heel. I won't be a bad guy."
Well, it doesn't make any sense, right? Like, the little kids love the Warrior. They love him coming out and shaking the ropes and acting like a maniac. They love him having basically like these 4-minute squash matches. Like, it's dumb. It's a dumb move to try to turn him heel, because he has no personality, right? Like,
right.
Being a heel requires some sort of like something happen behind the eyes, and the Warrior does not have that.
No,
he's just a dumb animal made of muscle and meat, and he's here to fight.
And he's all out of muscle.
He's all out of muscle. So this thing goes like 28 minutes. It's a long ass match. It has more twists and turns than an Agatha Christie novel. Like, it's like, who's on whose side? I don't know. I guess eventually it turns out that
Flair and Perfect are beating both of them up.
Yeah.
In the end. And then Earl Hebner, again, with an insanely fast 10 count, the double count out. And the crowd just starts chanting Hogan and is convinced that Hulk Hogan's going to come out and save the day. Sorry, kids. Hogan was not on the flight to London.
We saw that on one of the WrestleManias, didn't we? Where the crowd was like
constantly,
chanting for him early on.
Yeah, they want him to show up for every run-in.
Yeah,
like anytime the heel is getting over on the face, they want Hogan to come out and fix it. That's ridiculously powerful. Like, imagine if you're like watching AEW and like you just want Kenny Omega to come out at every
time
instance.
Kenny. Yeah. So Warrior gets the win from the count out, and then Flair locks the figure 4 on Randy while Perfect just wails on him. The Warrior is exhausted, but he's trying to get there to help, but he can barely stand. He eventually grabs a chair and chases Flair away, but Macho Man's leg is toast, of course. He manages to let the Warrior raise his hand in the ring, and we're kind of feeding into, we know this story's not ending anytime soon. So, and I guess Macho Man continued to sell the leg and the knee and stuff for the shows coming after this one. So next we're backstage then with Flair and Perfect and Mean Gene. I kind of like it when Gene gets all like righteously indignant and yells at the bad guys. He's like the assistant principal of like the alternative school or something. He's like trying to like get these kids in order. He's like, "God damn it, get your shit together." Yeah. Anyway, but all the kids are on cocaine here, so who knows?
Yeah.
All right, we get a little bit of a throwaway match here, just to fill up the card, I guess. It's the Undertaker with Paul Bearer. Paul Bearer. Versus Kamala, the Ugandan Giant, of course, with Harvey Whippleman and Kim Chi, who under the mask is...
Isn't it Brooklyn Brawler?
It's the Brooklyn Brawler, Steve Lombardi. Hell yeah. This is total filler. Kamala gets disqualified. He splashes Undertaker from the top rope twice, and we wrap this up and move on.
Yeah, I mean, this is, you're kind of blowing over this. But, like, Undertaker had a huge pop, and he comes out riding on the back of a hearse. Beautiful. Beautiful entrance for the Undertaker.
This is super early Undertaker. This is Purple Gloves Undertaker. Yeah.
This isn't even Purple Gloves. This is Gray Gloves. He hasn't gotten flashy yet.
Maybe he just likes wearing gloves.
Yeah. Yeah. He hadn't even been in WWF a year at this point, I believe. Wow. And I will say that around this time is when I saved up my money, scrinched all my pennies for taking the trash out, and bought myself a London Fog duster overcoat. Shit. Yeah, I had a black trench coat.
How much did that bad boy cost? Do you remember?
Oh, probably a bit over $100.
Yeah,
it was the nicest piece of clothing I owned at the time, and for a very long time.
I'll say, right around this time, all the a lot of guys in the band all bought black trench coats. Yeah, this is pre Columbine, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, the trench coat mafia isn't a real thing, so it's okay.
Yeah,
that was all bullshit for the press. Kamala sells the fear like nobody's business of watching the Undertaker come down riding on a hearse. The Undertaker's gloves at this point look so loose. They look annoying to wear. Like he's constantly adjusting them. Like it stops being like intimidating and just looks annoying. Like, God, I would hate to have to wear those gloves, and whatever. It was so weird that they would fly those two over to London for like what felt like 30 seconds.
Yeah, it was
3 minutes and 27 seconds.
It's so it's so short. It barely registers. The other one that barely registers, and we actually don't see it because it's a dark match, is Tatanka versus the Berserker with Mr. Fuji. That happens in between these two matches. It's not on the recorded version on the Peacock. I haven't seen it.
No, it was never a thing. I didn't even know that match happened until I looked at the Wikipedia for it. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me that match is there because technically then there's only, according to what we saw at home, there's only a 3 minute and 27 second weird squash match between the two main events.
It takes a little bit longer than that to at least get your shit set up,
Right, and then we get some bagpipers. Bret Hart looking super cool. His hair is perfect in his little promo that he gives backstage. Like little man crush stuff happening there. And then Bobby Heenan calls the bagpipers that come out that play Scotland the Brave grown men in skirts playing vacuum cleaners. That's a good line.
That's pretty good. Oh, Electrolux there. It's great. Yeah, Roddy Piper's leading the bagpipers to the arena. Crowd is super pumped to see Roddy. We get a little ringside interview with Davy's wife, Diana.
Who's Bret's sister.
Yeah. She is not good at talking, at all.
No.
Bless her.
She sounds like a girl version of Bret Hart, which is really weird.
She is very, I'm just going to say understated. How's that?
Yeah, she does land this beautiful line that I wonder if they prepped it for her or not, but it was like, she says, "I regret I may have been an obstacle in their path."
Nice. Yeah, that doesn't sound canned at all.
No. She's mumbling and I'm worried about Davey. I'm worried about Bret. I hope they don't hurt each other. I don't think it needed to come to this. And then blah, blah, blah. And then she just suddenly I regret I may have been an obstacle in their path. And girl.
That's too funny. Well, good for her. I just said bless her heart. That's all.
Bless her heart.
So boxer Lennox Lewis, also British, comes to the ring with Davey weighing a big ass Union Jack. I forgot how like actually cut and in shape Lennox Lewis was. I always think of him as a little, he's one of those guys that got kind of like big. I forgot how impressive and scary he was back in the day. Anyway, so I'll just.
I always confused him with Buster Douglas. I think.
Yeah,
and I think that's why I was like, that's not Lennox Lewis when he came out, and was like, no, that is Lennox Lewis, and he had a match coming up like against Razor Ruddock at this point, right?
Yeah. He was big. Yeah. This was I will say this is kind of the end of that sort of 90s run of the heavyweights. There was
Tyson was out of the picture by this point, right?
Yep. Well, because he had lost to Buster Douglas, and then Lennox Lewis took the title. I don't remember all the progression, but Evander Holyfield was in the mix. George Foreman came back for a bit. There were a lot of big guys around this time who were actually pretty good. After this, it really sort of dropped off, and the action really started happening in the lighter weight classes. And today, it's all the middleweights, lightweights, those guys. Nobody gives a shit about the heavyweights.
Yeah, I mean, you never saw knockouts anymore in heavyweights. Mike Tyson ruined that for people. Yep. And then boxing went back to being normal when he lost, and like it was just two big dudes leaning on each other for like 15 minutes. And then heavyweight boxing really doesn't come back into the picture until I would say like the Klitschko brothers.
Yeah.
Those two big Russian fucks. Like 6'10", like just pounding away on people.
Yeah, Ukrainians. Thank you.
Yeah, my dad and I were big fans of them. One of them's like the mayor of Kyiv now.
Oh, really? That's awesome. They should send him out to the front line. He could fuck those people up.
He would. But yeah. So
anyway, yeah. There was a whole. I was a big boxing fan. Jackie and I went to Atlantic City a couple years in a row. We saw. Mike Tyson. Well, we saw Mike Tyson's last fight in D.C. Muhammad Ali, and it was in the crowd. It was kind of an interesting thing. It was the one where he quit on his stool at the end of 6, I think. I'm going to blank on the guy's name that he fought, but it was a white guy. And then we also saw. Oh shit! I'm going to blank on the name. We went to Atlantic City. And we saw Tarver versus must have been Merriweather.
Mayweather.
Oh my God! Just put me in the box, please. Tarver, Antonio Tarver. He was like a light heavyweight, if I remember correctly. Anyway, there was a string there where they were actually worth watching. But all the heavyweights were coming out of Eastern European countries there for a bit.
I used to like Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah. He was also like an elected representative or whatever from his district.
He was like an actor and a mayor and like a congressman, and then he had a business, and he was also a boxing champion.
Yeah, that guy's great. Anyway, so I watched this match twice because this is such a classic Bret Hart match. It has everything you want, honestly, from a Bret Hart match. And like he's so fucking good that like it really sort of blows you away. Like, and you kind of think about what wrestling looks like now. So this is 31 years ago, 32 years ago, and I just think we're not going to have this ever again.
This match is quite fantastical. It is listed as arguably the best SummerSlam main event and best SummerSlam match ever. Bret considers this his best match. I mean, he thinks this is his best work, and it's because he carried British Bulldog through the entire thing, because Bulldog was high on crack the entire time.
Yeah.
So I have some excerpts of Bret Hart's book about this match pulled up here, and we can read some of it here.
Yeah.
So this is at the start of the match. Back in the ring, Joey, who is Joey Morella, Gorilla's Monsoon's son, who Bret considered to be the best referee the WWF had at the time. And if you watch his match, he is excellent in it as well. So he says, back in the ring, Joey gave Davey and me the rules. The three of us momentarily awestruck by the size of the crowd. We pushed off with Davey looking strong and serious. The crowd was ours, and the bell sounded. At first, Davey outmaneuvered me with simple and realistic wrestling, but after only a few minutes, he was breathing hard. Bret, I'm fooked, Davey panted as I had him clamped in a side headlock. I can't remember anything. Davey, just listen to me. I'll carry you. Joey shot me a worried look. This would be the test of my career.
Wow. Yeah, and they start, with sort of a test of strength, kind of thing, where a little pushing, a little shoving. Bret feels Davey's strength, obviously, right away. There's a big shoulder block from Davey, sends Bret rolling out of the ring, like, relatively early, and you're like, oh, shit. Bret's a tough guy, but like this, look at the size of this motherfucker. He's a big, strong guy. He regularly power slams people twice his size, like it was just nothing.
Yeah.
They move to some technical stuff. There's some arm locks and the reversals. Bret almost steals one with a roll up relatively early. Davey catches Bret in a leapfrog and like slingshots him into the turnbuckle, and it puts this awesome crucifix on him into a pin attempt. The crowd is so hyped at this point. You can barely hear Bobby and Vince doing the announcing over the crowd.
Yeah, at one point there's silence in the audio briefly, just because it's very clear that the crowd noise, the music, and the announce team have blown out the needle, and so they had to clip out the audio just because it was probably completely terrible. And Bret is working heel here barely. He knows that he knows that the crowd loves him, but the crowd loves Davey Boy just a little bit more. And so to help Davey get over, Bret's just doing a couple little questionable moves. He's not being bad guy of like uncovering the turnbuckle or pulling a foreign object out of his pants. He's taking a little maneuver to send Davey Boy out of the ring to catch a breather. He's hitting Davey Boy with like a belt high shot to the gut that kind of slows you down, and it looks maybe like it might have been a tad low, but the referee can't call something like that. He's like just working on the fringes of the rules just a little bit to make Davey Boy look even better. And the storytelling between these two is just fantastic, and Bret is carrying it, obviously, because Davey Boy is blown. He's blown up, and he's stoned.
Yeah. So Bret, you can kind of see. So we've seen this in a couple of other Bret matches where he sort of starts out like very clean, very technical, right? He's going to wrestle this guy, and then it becomes clear that like wrestling is not going to get the job done, and he's got to get a little bit physical, like a little bit ugly, and he doesn't want to hurt him. Again, it's his brother-in-law, right? He loves him. It's his sister's husband. He doesn't want to, but he keeps kind of ratcheting up just a little bit more and more and more. At one point, the point for me where I felt like, oh shit, now he's like getting serious, is Davey's kind of laying down, and Bret picks him up and sort of like slams his head down into the canvas, and like it's not a dirty move per se, and not like it's forbidden, but it's a little bit ugly, right? It's just like, I don't know. That's not really a wrestling move. That's like trying to hurt somebody kind of move. And he's such a master at this stuff. We see it in the match with him and Owen in the cage in one of the other pay-per-views around this time.
Yeah.
And again, same with Mr. Perfect and others. He's just like, he's also, you can see him trying to like he's taking everything that he knows, right? And it's just one creative, athletic move after another to try to bring down this fucking monster of a guy who, again, is still family, and he doesn't want to cripple him, but he's got to take him out of action. So there's a lot of parts here where Bret sort of slows everything down. He grabs Davey in some sort of like headlock or rear chin lock or whatever, and you can very clearly, the camera maybe should have cut away, but you can very clearly see Bret like talking into the back of Davey's head, right?
Yeah,
like, and giving him instructions about what's going to happen. I'm not good enough at reading lips to tell you what he's saying, but like you can see that he is broadcasting what's happening next, you know?
I made sure I didn't overdo it as a heel, knowing the fans would forgive me in the end when I lost. 25 minutes into the match, I locked Davey in a sleeper hold, and the crowd immediately got behind him, cheering him on to revive himself as he crawled to the ropes, gasping for air. I snapped a beautiful boot straight into his face, grazing the tip of his nose like I'd snapped it hard with my finger to wake him up. The drama built, layer upon layer, as every move that came followed a logic that never detracted from the story. I hit Davey with my whole arsenal, finally locking on the sleeper again. As he sank to his knees, I called the spots into his ear, and he rose up to his feet with me on his back. Staggering backward, he rammed me into the corner with all his weight, nearly snapping my neck in half on the top rope for real. But there was no time to sell as I slapped on the sleeper one more time.
He does this like jumping snap suplex on Davey that looks absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
He gets a German suplex for a near fall. That thing where Davey drops him backwards onto the ropes. I don't know if Bret was supposed to go over or what, but he ends up kind of like tangled in the middle rope.
That is actually intentional.
It was intentional. That part is nuts. I read that book, by the way. That's a phenomenal book. Hitman. It's just called Hitman. I recommend it. There's a lot of axe grinding, a lot of score settling from Bret, but honestly, like, I don't mind.
No, how can you?
No. Yeah.
Yeah, the fascinating thing also that he mentions here. So there's this incredible spot where they do a double clothesline. They're both laying down. And Bret weasels his way over and starts putting the sharpshooter on Bulldog while he's laying down.
Mm-hmm.
They're both laying there flat on the mat. And Bret says that I had woken Julie, his wife, up and somehow managed to talk her into lying on the floor next to the bed to see whether it would work. Now I entwined my legs through Davies, and before anybody quite knew what I was up to, I twisted him over into my sharpshooter with no escape right in the middle of the ring. The crowd went nuts as I fought with all my strength to stop Davey from crawling to the ropes, dragging me behind him. When he reached them, there was an explosion of relief. Nobody had ever escaped the sharpshooter before. As I dragged myself to my feet, exhausted, I could see my invisible banana peel lying in the middle of the ring. Joey kept muttering, "Unbelievable."
Now I want to watch this match again. Like, I watched it twice, and again, I've seen it before, but now I want to go back and watch it again. So yeah, he gets the sharpshooter, he gets out of it, throws Bret back against the ropes. Hart comes back and attempts a sunset flip, but Davey kind of like flips him around and managed to roll him into a pin and gets the win for the championship there.
Bulldog reverses the sunset flip and Wembley explodes.
It's nuts. And so I really like the aftermath of the pin here. You know, like Bret is just sitting on the canvas. He's despondent, you know. He can't fucking believe it. He's had this title. It's been his title. He's the excellence of execution. He can't fucking believe that he just lost it to his brother-in-law, you know, who he loves, right? He respects, he loves, he's a monster star, he's a big guy, but like he still can't quite take it, you know. And Davey tries to offer him his hand a couple times, and he turns away from it a couple times. He can't sort of make his mind up. Diana is off to the side. She's crying. She's all torn up. And then, of course, finally we get the handshake and the big old hug. And, again, the crowd just, like, loses its goddamn mind and wets itself and whatever else.
That's actually the moment that made Bret angry.
Really?
So he loses the match, and then Bret says, "I made out that I was too pissed off to shake Davey's hand. I had planned all of this with Davey, but it became painfully obvious to me that he'd forgotten all about it. I desperately tried to make eye contact, but he was oblivious as Diana climbed into the ring crying, I can only assume for real. I'm thinking, come on, Davey, look at me, and we'll make them all cry." But Davey never caught on. Instead, he was trying to milk the crowd. I was thinking, the drama is with me, not them, for fuck's sake. Please look at me, Davey. After too many attempts, I gave up and just walked over and shook his hand. He'd completely missed one of the tiny moments that can make it all more real. But what can I do? The torch had been passed.
Interesting. Yeah, that's too bad. So he missed it basically because he was fucked up. Yeah.
Right. It was too high to really focus in on the storytelling. But at the same time, you can't help but wonder if this match was actually made better because Bret was carrying it the entire time. He was just calling it the whole thing.
Yeah.
Now, Bret had already fully choreographed this match in his mind and worked it out with Davey beforehand. But Davey Boy Smith couldn't remember any of it.
What a finish! I mean, what a main event! It's an all timer. I'd put it in a top 10 of. It's in a top 2 or 3 for Bret. Obviously,
yeah.
It's in a top 10 for the '90s for the '90s WWF.
And they're right about the shift into the new generation at this point, because we have Razor Ramon gets mentioned at one point during this match. We have Tatanka fighting a dark match. We have The Undertaker showing up. We have Bret Hart, who's here losing the title, so that means he's about to enter the world title picture at this point. Crush, he's also part of this in his weird Hawaiian gimmick. And
his feud with Doink. Don't forget.
And his feud with Doink is coming up. That's the next thing he does, is
Never
feud
forget
with Doink after this.
Never forget.
So it's going to be, it's right there. Monday Night Raw is going to debut in the January after this SummerSlam, and it's going to be off to the races for the WWF at that point.
Yeah. No, it's a really interesting time, sort of a pivotal moment. And I feel like I probably stopped watching wrestling a little bit before this, because this is going to be a weird thing, but I sort of, what do I want to say? Cornrows Davey was like right after I stopped watching. He didn't have that haircut when I was, and I know that they were there and then came back. They went away and came back and stuff, but Bret as the Intercontinental Champion was kind of also like the last Bret that I remember watching. So anyway, but no, phenomenal match. We should probably at some point do an episode where we do like a top 10 or top whatever of Bret Hart's matches. Because obviously we're both huge fans. I don't think anybody out there is as creative and pure in the ring as he was,
or someone that actually grasped the art of it as well. You know what I mean? Like there's
sure.
There's people out there that they understood the business, they understood the technical moves and the physicality, or they understood the art of it. But Bret really got all three. He understood the business. He understood, he's got to put people over. He's got to, that's how you move ahead. You move ahead by losing in wrestling. It's counterintuitive, but that's how it works.
Yeah.
And he also understood the physicality and the art of it. He never hurt anybody in the ring. Nobody ever got hurt wrestling him, intentionally or otherwise. It was always just be like a slip on their own behalf that would cause an injury. And he had a way of telling a story but making it look real at the same time. He was never sucked into this cartoon world, right? He wasn't coming out with Rocco the puppet.
Yeah. He
wasn't, riding motorcycles or doing anything else weird. He wasn't coming out with a funeral director and an urn. He wasn't doing anything like that. He was, I'm Bret Hart. I'm here to work. This is serious to me. This is real. And that was his gimmick. It was kind of...
It's the anti-gimmick, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's like, I'm so pure and real, I don't need a gimmick. And that itself becomes the gimmick.
Right. Which is why him and Stone Cold worked so well together. Because Stone Cold was also the anti-gimmick gimmick.
Right.
Right? Like he was authentic, and he presented himself... He presented that character as if that was really him.
Right.
And it was, part of it was him, but, Stone Cold Steve Austin doesn't own a winery, right?
He doesn't say Cabernet Sauvignon.
No. He doesn't like having a house on a lake outside of Atlanta in the woods, and grocery shopping himself and stuff like that. So,
have you watched the video of Stone Cold dealing with his chickens? Have you seen that?
No, I have not.
Oh my God, I have to send that to you. He's got these chickens, and he talks to them like they're his children. Like it's like, yeah, come on in here. You know, he's like getting them to the. I forget what the chicken's name is. She's like, well, she's got to lay an egg. We got to get her in here, and like, come on in, you know. And then he kicks the rooster out because the rooster's trying to fuck around. Anyway, he's like the dad that didn't want the dog, and then all of a sudden is like in love with the dog. Anyway.
Yeah, and and we talk about, the relationship of commentator of Jim Ross to Stone Cold, but Bobby Heenan to Bret Hart is also very close in that. And I think that's something that's overlooked by a lot of people, that like when Bret Hart came out to wrestle for this match, Bobby Heenan's attitude completely changed. The corny jokes, the cheap shots, it all disappears. He starts really talking about, this is a great match. This is serious work. Yeah. This is so impressive. Both of these guys, like, he stops being heel commentator and he turns on like real wrestling knowledge and real wrestling fandom for Bret coming out in this match. And he does it every time that you see him call a Bret match.
I think Gorilla Monsoon with early Bret is the same way. It wasn't a Gorilla Monsoon that did the excellence of execution. Wasn't that his?
Yep, that was his line for him.
So there's another potential topic for a show, like sort of who the best pairings of commentator and talent were, because there really is a sort of symbiotic kind of thing going on. You can't imagine.
Gorilla Monsoon was great for everybody, though. Oh my God, he came up with all these phrases for everybody. He's the one that started calling the Undertaker the Phenom.
The Phenom, yeah.
Like that's
what a mensch.
You can't think of the Undertaker without that phrase, the Phenom.
Yeah, it's great. Maybe he just likes wearing gloves. I will never not think of that. We went to VCW wrestling last night here in Norfolk, and I went with our buddy Mark, Dr. Willett, and we're watching, and he leans over to me. He's like, "Great scientific maneuver." I'm like, "Thanks, Gorilla." Thanks, Gorilla. I'm like, he nailed him right on the external occipital protuberance.
Right in the breadbasket.
Right in the breadbasket. You gotta get him in the breadbasket.
Look at the ham hocks on that man.
Anyway, phenomenal event, phenomenal main event. I'm glad we really watched this. Take a chance, take a look at it. If this is your era of WWF, obviously you know this one. You'll still love watching it again. If you're a little younger, you haven't seen this stuff before, just give it a whirl. You'll love it. Favorite match, obviously that's an easy one. Least favorite match, any thoughts? I'd say probably Virgil versus Nails, just because it's nonsense.
It's meaningless. It's a squash match, and then knowing that Nails is going to be out of there very shortly, though he does have the big boss man's nightstick at this point, so that's kind of fun. Yeah.
Did you have a holy shit moment from this?
I would probably say that I have two. And one of them is going to be when Sherry Martel initially faints.
That's so good. So good.
It's like, oh shit, this match is derailed now.
It's over. Yeah.
This is it. And then also the spot where Bret gets gorilla pressed above Davey Boy's head and falls into the ropes and like,
yeah, what a monster.
Bounces around in the ropes. It's like, Jesus.
What a monster. Yeah. Those will probably be mine as well. Sherry Martel, MVP. That's all I got to say. We're going to wrap up with our in memoriam. So as we always do, we like to just take a moment to pay tribute to the men and women we've seen in this particular show who are no longer with us. So our in memoriam for SummerSlam 1992 from Wembley Stadium. Pretty extensive list here. We've got, let's see, ring announcer Howard Finkel, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Mean Gene Okerlund, Lord Alfred Hayes, Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig, British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith, Road Warrior Hawk and Road Warrior Animal, Legion of Doom, Macho Man Randy Savage, The Ultimate Warrior, Virgil, is a relatively recent one, MVP Sherry Martel, The Genius Lanny Poffo, Earthquake John Tenta, Bushwhacker Luke, who we just lost this past fall, Crush, Paul Bearer, Kamala, Mr. Fuji, who's in a dark match, Rowdy Piper, and referee Joey Marilla. Thanks for listening, folks. Check us out, of course, at thewrestlingarchives.com. You can follow us on the Twitters. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. You can always shoot us an email at thewrestlingarchives@gmail.com. Let's see. If you want to support the show, you can go to ko-fi.com/thewrestlingarchives. Drop us $5, the cost of a cup of coffee. We use it to help support the show. We can buy advertising occasionally, help get the word out to all the peoples. We've got t-shirts on tpublic.com. Search for Wrestling Archives. Got some super cool designs out there. Anything I'm missing? We got a lot of web presence these days. We're legit.
Yeah, we're trying our best, you know.
Yeah.
We just want you all to listen, you know. We do this out of the love of our hearts. We're not, you know, if you want us, we're going to remain ad-free, so I'm not going to hit you with that threat.
Yeah.
No one's looking to buy sponsorship from us.
No.
We probably because we just give it for free anyway. Drink Pepsi. Anyways. No, Pepsi's fucking disgusting. We're a Coke household.
Drink Coke Zero. They really nailed it.
Damn it. They really nailed that.
They did.
Oh, anyways, boy, that's a deep cut.
Yeah.
Anyways, folks, you know, check us out, you know. We have fun.
We appreciate you listening. And we'll be back. We've got I don't know what we're going to talk about next. I guess we need to figure out. There's always more WrestleManias to cover. Right
now we have a pretty awesome guest lined up. We're hoping that'll pan through. We don't want to drop any names in case that doesn't happen, but it looks like it's going to happen.
Yeah, you guys are going to be impressed. You're going to be like, how'd they get that one? And we're like, well, we got our secrets.
Yeah. Yeah, none other than Hulk Hogan's going to come on here and talk about Jesus with us. It's going to be great.
40 minutes of just outright lies.
Yeah.
We promised to ask him about cranking his hog.
You know, the crucifixion was my idea, brother.
Originally, they were going to do it with zip ties. I said, nah, brother, that don't work for me. Let's try nails.
That's not good enough. Jesus. I can't even continue.
All right.
John 3:16.
I guess we're getting punchy. It's late.
It's late. It's Sunday. You're over there drinking white wine like a bougie. I took allergy medicine.
Oh, shit.
We're fired up.
I'm tired. All right, guys. Wrapping up. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.